Hey, what's up? It's GW coming to you live right now. Hey, as promised, I just watched that movie, The Lighthouse, starring William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. And there's a lot that I want to talk to you guys about this film. First of all, right off the bat, this film is not going to appeal to everybody because it's shot in black and white. The film is set in, I believe, the 1800s. That's what it says. Now, if you haven't heard about this film, it didn't get much mainstream appeal, but it is done by the director of The Witch, Robert Eggers. The Witch, as you know, was a slow burn movie, and at the end, it had a nice little payoff. This one, I don't even know where to begin. It's about Robert Pattinson's character who is going to learn from William Dafoe's character. William Dafoe is the old salty dog sort of guy that runs the lighthouse and runs the light in the lighthouse. He's also, your typical drunken sailor type guy with an attitude. And he does really well. There was a few scenes there where I think his acting was top notch. I mean, William Dafoe is one of the great actors of our generation anyways, and basically it was nice to see him, fill the role out. The movie is a slow burn, but it's more hypnotic, and there's all kinds of stuff going through this movie. I mean, you gotta really watch this thing 3 times to really get it. But I will tell you this, it's claustrophobic because they are stuck on an island in New England. The shots of the lighthouse in black and white look creepy as hell, guys, and I'm not gonna lie. The the water, the special effects look amazing. There is a female in this film. She plays a mermaid, but I didn't really get her name. But mermaids are, that theme runs through the movie too. And right off the bat, I mean, this film sort of is a descent into madness as both of them decide, or both of them rather go insane from not having any human contact. And then, of course, you get the heavy drinking going on, then the mistrust, and then the obsession to kill. And it culminates into one of the most craziest conclusions to a movie I've ever seen. I didn't expect much from this film. I thought it was just going to be slow burn and then at the end somebody dies. But the imagery and the things that you pick up as you watch it are mind blowing. Especially toward the last half in the middle. Now, this film runs about an hour and 48 minutes, 49 minutes, depending. It it's definitely worth watching if you have the time. And it's one of those films that you would pass up, casually on a rack and go, looks boring. Pick it up. Because it really had me going. The other thing that I like about it, aside from the camera work, was the way that it was played out. It starts off, these guys are working together, and then it becomes like they're best friends, but then in the blink of an eye, it shoots down to insanity. Now, you wouldn't expect a lot of gore from this film, but there's a few scenes in there that are pretty wicked. Like, hypothetically, there's a shot of a severed head being brought up in a lobster basket, which is pretty cool. There is a shot of a guy eaten by seagulls, pretty mangled up, it's pretty good stuff. When paranoia sets in, of course, rescue and everything. Now, there's one pivotal scene in this movie William Dafoe's character tells Robert Pattinson's character not to kill seagulls because apparently they carry the souls of the dead sailors. Well, that goes unnoticed. Once that happens, the movie takes a whole different direction, and it seems like the two people on the island guarding the lighthouse are now cursed. But this film has a lot to it, and it's definitely worth watching about 2 or 3 times over because you will find hidden things. The other thing I liked about this film is that the dialogue. The dialogue is that old 1800s, salty sea sailor talk, and I loved it. It fit the movie perfectly as well as it should. But William Dafoe is a master at it. I mean, he totally, like I said before, slipped into this character. The mermaid plays, like I said, a pivotal part into it. And you really don't know from the first time watching this if the mermaid is real or it's a figment of Robert Pattinson's mind. Like I said, this thing is amazing, and you could see why it was up for nominations, because if you look at the acting and you look at the story and how real it is presented, I mean, it's something that could happen. Mermaid aside, I mean, anybody could go nuts in those New England lighthouses. I know my uncle lives up in Lewiston, Maine, and when we went on a boat trip, there are lighthouses just in the middle of the ocean, just sitting there chilling, and they have to be manned at all times. And you could honestly see that, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that, you get enough liquor, you get enough, solitary confinement away from population, your mind's going to start to go. And your mind is going to go places that you don't want it to go. And eventually you are going to end up, pretty out there, if you will. But all in all, I mean, this film will haunt you too. You'll watch the whole movie and you'll forget about half of it, but the last 45 minutes will stick in your brain and replay over and over again until you figure it out. And, coming off the Witch, this is a much better picture in terms of, I'd say, quality as well as pacing. So I would definitely give it a watch. It does have some special features. It has a dark and stormy tale, which is probably the making of it or the overview of it. Has audio commentary with co-writer and director Robert Eggers. There are some deleted scenes, which I was going to check out, but after watching the end of it, I mean, it was just like, it was a perfect movie for me. Now, this film is rated pretty good on Rotten Tomatoes, guys. Certified fresh right there. You guys can check it out. The thing that drew me to this was the fact that I had heard so much about this film, and I was like, okay, how good could it be? I mean, honestly. But when you watch it, the acting totally fits the situation. These guys are so believable, and it's just amazing. And I honestly don't think I'll look at a lighthouse the same way again, because every time I will now, I will remember what happened. But one of the best things about this movie, other than the acting, as well as the, hallucinatory, going to Insanityville type deal, was the way that this picture is shot. And I cannot tell you enough that, being shot in black and white, you would think it would take away from the picture, but it actually pretty much, what's the word I'm looking for? It sets the tone for the timeline. And when you see this lighthouse, I mean, lighthouses don't look terrifying at all. Just like, houses. You can walk through a house and it's not terrifying. But Robert Eggers has made a lighthouse a terrifying monstrosity to be around. The way that the photography is in this movie, I honestly, guys, cannot tell you enough that it's creepy, and it reminds you of the way the industrial city is shot in that film Eraserhead, that David Lynch film. But definitely give it a whirl. And it is not for everybody. Especially if you watch it 2 or 3 times. Like I said, you will probably pick up more than I did. But it's a slow burn movie, but in the middle, it seems to go where it needs to go. I mean, these guys are going certifiably insane. And it's just fun to watch them. But the acting is top notch in here, and I think William Dafoe delivers probably one of the best performances that I've seen him in since Platoon, and that's saying something. Robert Pattinson is awesome in this role too. I mean, he seems to be the paranoia-filled one, and they work out pretty good. The only thing is, like I said, the ending. There was a thing on YouTube that explained the ending of it, and at first glance, you don't know what's going on. But I'm going to have to Google it. But the ending made sense. Now, there are overtones, like I said, of mermaids. There's actually a shot of a sea creature in here that Robert Pattinson thinks he's seeing, but again, you don't know if it's real or not. But one would think, too, if you're left alone without any human contact, or you're in a situation, and the film takes place over the span of 4 weeks. They tell you that. Because apparently, what happens in the movie is William Dafoe's character is actually going to quit doing this, and Robert Pattinson's going to take over, and it's only a 4-week deal. But, again, when you're stuck in solitary with no clocks, or there is a clock, I'm sorry, in the film, but when there's no human contact and there's nothing, time just sort of disappears. But it's fun to watch the domino effect in this film, how one little thing can curse the entire island, especially when people in the 1800s, they were believing in witchcraft and sea monsters and krakens and mermaids and all that type of stuff. And it was pretty cool. And whoever played the mermaid, heads up, guys, she's pretty cute. Definitely look into it. Tell me what you think about it. But it was one of the most surprising films that I saw, and I'm glad it is better than The Witch. Which, if you guys want a quick review of The Witch, I'll review that, at some point. But it is a very slow burn movie. But it worked because the end of the film made the rest of the film make sense, and you never saw it coming. But if you saw it, I don't need to tell you what happened. But it was sort of like that. This one, much better step up. I think the production value was higher in this. And like I said, this is definitely a story that will stick with you probably a couple of days after you watch it. So, why don't you go up to the lighthouse and check it out. GW.